This is our silent film, Malevolence, A Tale of Envy. It's influenced from the 1800s to the 1920s. It's a silent film on German Expressionism. And as you can see, this is the first scene.
Okay, so we've done this in black and white, which obviously could be termed a bit more film noir, but we thought it was a nice effect. And the German Expressionism we put into our film has been mainly facial expressions, body language, mannerisms to bring the film alive. We didn't want to depend too heavily on the intertitles we used, did we?
No, because we wanted the story to tell itself through gesture, facial expressions, character.
And obviously the style and the feel, just from the way we acted and eyes as well.
I think we put in just the right amount of slides to let you know what's going on without actually revealing too much.
Yeah. Okay, so we started off obviously having a discussion about what we'd like to do for our idea and our story. After discussing it a few times, we came up with a very loosely based idea of obviously a husband, wife and the maid. So we thought if the husband started eyeing the maid up, then the wife would get jealous and bump her off. That's basically the very, very basic description of it. We've named them characters, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got Malevolence, who is the lady of the house. So she's the one who's jealous and feels older, maybe not good enough for her husband anymore. As you can see, she's asking for a kiss goodbye there. She's not very happy.
No. And Lily, which is a really nice, sweet name for the maid.
Also, it shows lilies are the sort of flowers you have at funerals for death.
Yeah.
So
obviously death, yeah.
Yeah.
And we decided to name the husband of the house Max after Max Schreck, who played Count Orlok in Nosferatu, which has also been quite an influence on our work,
quite
hasn't
a
it?
large influence. Yeah, we've got 3 main clips which are based around Nosferatu's.
We'll talk about them as we move on to them, shall we? But at the moment, you can see the opening scene. We've got the maid just there, been touched by the master, jump back. So that's setting the wheels in motion for the story to unfold now.
We originally didn't want to shoot it like this. We wanted to do it that the lady of the house would see the maid through a door, but we changed it because we did this shot where Andy, who plays Max, actually touched my hand, and it worked really well because it was subtle, but yet it was enough to show that she was getting in the way somehow. So this scene is just to show that
she's getting on with her work and she's still faithful and loyal, and she's clearing up after their breakfast.
So here is lovely Malevolence trying to lure her out of the building to try and
get her into some isolated little spot and do her in.
But as you can see, the maid just wants to get on with the work. That's what she's there for. She's not there to try and befriend the lady of the house. That's not her place. She's just getting on with her work.
And I think there's quite a lot of expression there with the hands and the head nodding. Not so much reliant on the facial expression there, because it is a bit of a long shot, isn't it? Well, sort of mid-shot.
That's right, yeah. But eventually she's obviously persuaded to go, so she leaves. And this is when we start doing our shots outside. So we've got a shot here of my pond, and it's a landscape shot.
Continuation shot, isn't it? To give a bit of length into it.
So, as you'll see later on in the film, we've used this clip and the second clip of the journey, and we've also got a return journey where it's just Malevolence, so showing that she's obviously bumped her off and she's going home alone, but that's obviously...
But we've kept the camera in the same spot, haven't we, to capture, because obviously it's fixed points.
We did both shots at the same time so that we wouldn't lose that essence of the same place.
Yeah.
As you can see here, we used a lot of day timing to get the right sort of lights on the trees, so that you had nice shadows and the right colours came out on us as characters.
I particularly like the acting in this point as well, because obviously you're looking a bit forlorn and lost and looking around, and that adds to the victim and the sort of helplessness, doesn't it?
Yeah. Originally we were going to use an old building that had been run down, like an old mill from the 1900s, but it was too icy and dangerous weather conditions, so we didn't go there in the end, and we ended up using this building, which is near my house, so it's on a pond, which actually ended up being a much better destination because we had the bridge, which used really good effect for the sort of leading me off into an unknown place. And as you can see, I'm very suspicious of what's going on here, and she's obviously extremely fake.
I'm getting a little bit more insane now. My eyes getting a bit bigger. The painting coming up now, that was nice, I thought, quite fitting because it's very angelic.
Yeah, so I'm quite fast and pacey, so I'm shocked. And then I'm like, wow, this is an amazing photo, actually. Obviously, you can see this is where I get terrified. And we've had this blackout here to show that it's possibly the end of the film, but then it comes back quickly, so you go, oh, well, no, it's not the end. Oh, what's next? Suspense.
Yeah.
As you can see, she's covering up the body. We tried to do a different effect on the sheet where blood would come out, but it didn't work very well, so we had to pass on that one.
It's quite difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, everything has to be a lot darker in the black and white as well, which that affected our makeup quite a lot, didn't it? I mean, we've obviously put quite a lot of makeup they would have used originally in silent films, a lot of black around the eyes, a very dark lipstick and pale faces, foundation and everything.
As you can see here, she's disposed of my body, and so now she's panicking and obviously looking around for what's next to do. So she's off the run. As you can see, this is back to where she travelled through with the maid, but obviously she's alone now, looking extremely
and needs to get rid of the knife.
Yeah.
She looks like she's getting a bit insane now.
Yeah, this is
losing the plot a bit.
We wanted this shot to be obviously focused on her, but still have the same shot as when they were together, obviously showing that she has completely lost the plot now.
Well, licking her hands and everything, licking the blood off.
That's right, yeah, that was a last minute pick actually, wasn't it? But it worked really well. We decided to keep it, so
it's quite funny in the film, wasn't it, when I tried to spit it out and it just went wrong.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh, that was hilarious. So the filming, you did most of the shots, didn't you? You had a really good, clear idea of what you wanted to do and the effects you wanted to get.
Yeah, I had it in my head exactly what sort of I took from like Nosferatu. I took it from there, most of the shots, sort of things like this travelling business, like they had a lot of travelling in that one, but we wanted to cut it down so it didn't go on as much.
But just have an element of it.
Yeah, that's right. So as you can see, she's laughing back at, obviously she's on her own. Really didn't enjoy the fact that we didn't have a lot of good locations, so that shot I really don't like because it just looks too modern.
And it was freezing, wasn't it? It was snow everywhere, ice. It was absolutely freezing. It was quite difficult anyway filming outside, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, my hands nearly dropped off in the end. So this is back in the house then. We've got Andy back in, and he's obviously wondering where the maid is now. I like the iconic parts of where you've been using the candle and obviously this bit of the bell. I think it's quite iconic because, you know, he keeps ringing it, she's not coming, and I think it's really nice to make that a central part, like symbolic sort of part of it.
Yeah. I think it's good how Malevolence is laughing slightly, and then when he goes for it properly with the bow, she goes into a hysterical state where she can't control how funny it is that he's ringing for the maid, and she's never going to come, is she? Because obviously Malevolence knows she's killed him.
And I think it's totally struck her. She suddenly realised, that's it, I'm sat at the table and she's not going to appear.
But obviously Max is furious, he doesn't understand what's going on, so she's really shocked. And this is we didn't want to zoom in, but we didn't have much choice on the shot, but it was just a slow motion of the bell still ringing, and obviously never going to be answered.
Without that zoom, I think it still would have worked because it was the point of it, wasn't it? I mean, do you think really that we needed to have like maybe a little shot of him just sat? Because I thought it'd be nice to have him sat by the fireplace, the real fire.
Yeah, it would have been nice
smoking
to get
a cigar,
shot,
and then she comes in pleading with him to come up to bed, just to bridge that gap.
As you can see, she has got a book in her hand. We haven't made it clear because it was only a New Testament Bible, but it is meant to resemble that she's reading a Bible. You know, she's a real hypocrite. She's killed, she's done a sin, and she's sat there reading the Bible, laughing to herself.
And he's just come in and totally turned his back on her, but she's still got a weird glee look in her eyes, and she looks a bit insane.
Put the light down in this bit, still leaving a bit
well,
to show
obviously,
that
because
it was
gone darker and they've gone to sleep, sort of thing. Yeah. But obviously, having such a short amount of time for the
this
film.
one we had to put a bit of light on, and we wanted to get a clip of like a moon to put in between, but we didn't.
Yeah,
get the
like
chance.
show the outside of the house, show the moon, and then show the light in there, so that.
And that was the knife going into her dreams to show. Obviously, that is what is in her head that this dream is.
And then you appear, and this is another influence from Nosferatu as well, with
where
the
he
jump
comes up
motion.
the building,
yeah, where you just literally come forward and. Yeah.
The whole point of that is to scare, and then obviously she wakes up and that knife's in front of her across the shadow, and that's how we end it, because we didn't want to end it on like a shot of her dead. We just wanted to leave the audience to think about what they could do.
Yeah, and that
what would
not
happen
knowing,
next.
Yeah, would be enough to sort of like, you know. Yeah. For technical help, we did have to ask a few people to help out. We got our music tutor, Tim, to do our photoplay music, which is obviously playing... which was a really good thing because he can change all the mood and
it was improvised. So we got him to watch the film, and then we talked to him about what we kind of wanted and where the peak points were in the song, where he'd have to build it
make
up.
it more intense or
suspense,
relaxed and more happy.
And then he played it along while he was watching the film, so that he obviously still knew exactly when to come in. That was sort of,
I mean, obviously there are little bits that are improvised, but I'd say it's not totally improvised because he's got a good idea. He's already seen the film.
Yeah.
So we didn't just do it off the top of his head.
No. He did. He knew what he was trying to achieve as well. So.
But obviously, he's used what he thought for the mood. Any other help we needed? I think we had some help with props, a few props and things, sourcing them.
Yeah, Caroline Hall and Andy Hall helped us with all our lighting and like technical things like that. Obviously, I advised them as I was the director, but we just basically needed things like knives and little things like all the things on the table. They were all needed. They all had to look old because everything else looked quite modern. Yeah. So you had to take that and build that influence. And
also, Caroline Hall helped a lot with sometimes filming because sometimes we were both on camera at the same time, so we did need some help with the filming at times.
Yeah. We did use our own costumes. We picked them out ourselves, but obviously helped each other pick them. On the camera, we both had myself for all the shots I wasn't in. I tried to. I set them up for the ones I wasn't in, but the ones I was in, I set before I got into the shot. I set and said how I wanted it, and then replaced the person in front of the camera with me, and told Caroline or Andy to film it from there on. And if I didn't like the shot, we'd redo it.
Mm-hmm. And we did our own makeup, didn't we? Which we researched and looked into. And most silent films seem to be, obviously because they were darker, a lot of them sepia, and they'd sometimes tint, wouldn't they, and put own colours into it to affect the moods. Yeah. But the makeup was just very dark around the eyes, pale faces. So we did think at one point that we wish we'd made our lips darker. Yeah.
But it did, because of the modern black and white, it worked well.
Still showed it because it wasn't so dark. The black wasn't as black as it could be.
But I think that we all got the right. We had to draw on the moustache on Andy.
Yeah, that was quite funny. It worked quite
well.
But
it did look really good. Yeah, it did look good. Because he had a shaven face, and back then they probably wouldn't have had that. So we tried to put something in there, and it worked really well. With the editing, it took quite a long time to edit it all, but we didn't really want to use many effects or crossovers. We just wanted straight shot cuts, because obviously that's what they would have done. We did use effects on the bridge scene with the ghost of the Maid from Nosferatu, but that was purely because they had that visual disappearing and appearing from him.
Yeah, where they stopped the film, they had to move forward literally.
So we wanted to create that as well, so we used some effects on that. Other than that, it was just putting it together at the right times and things like that.
And getting the length for the intertitles, title cards as they were.
And we changed a lot of the contrasts because we wanted them to be darker because they were still quite bright, but
a bit washed out.
Yeah, so we made them darker so it was more, spooky and.
I think the important thing as well when we're editing is with the intertitles, I think to start with we had to play around a lot with the style of the words as well, didn't we? Because it didn't always show up.
Yeah, no, it didn't work.
And they were too short, not long enough on there to read at one point. So that took a bit of adjustment as well, didn't it? Working out what to put on there. But all in all, I'm quite pleased with it. I think it worked quite well.
I think if we'd had more time and a lot more, like a budget and good locations, it could have been really, really good. I'm very pleased with what we had.
Yeah.
And what we achieved.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, looking back on it now, you think of all things you could have done, like all the extra little scenes you could have put in, all the linking and transition, sort of like linking, not transition in the editing, but...
But all in all, it was good, and we hope you enjoy it.